What's up, St. Louis? Jamal Mayers here. Want a chance to watch the Blues like an insider with me? When you become an annual STL Sports Central insider, you're automatically entered to win. We're picking 2 winners, each bringing a guest to join me in the Blues Alumni Suite for the game versus the Edmonton Oilers on Friday, March 13th. That's right, Connor McDavid. We'll have free drinks, heavy appetizers, and an unforgettable night of Blues hockey. Sign up now at STL Sports Central, and I'll see you at the game.
And welcome to the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker with you. And as you see at the top of the screen, you can subscribe to be an STL Sports Central insider if you so desire.
Randy, I didn't realize it until I heard that promo from Jamal that I think I know what my favorite appetizer is.
Heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you? That's exactly. As soon as I heard that, I was like, you know what? I think that's my favorite. My favorite appetizer is heavy appetizers.
Yeah. That's like a 14-ounce ribeye. That's heavy, and that counts. I'll go with that.
Heavy appetizers is an incredible thing. I think that's if you need to get me to some place at a certain time.
Jumbo shrimp.
Yeah, exactly. Just tell me there's heavy appetizers, and I'll be there with bells on.
Yeah. So become an insider. Just go to stlsportscentral.com, and we'd love to have you join us. So much great material, especially at this time of year with the Donovan trade and Bernie's great work and all of the great work that you're getting from STL Sports Central. Check it out. And it's only $9.95 a month, as you can see, and access to all of Bernie's columns, our get-together with Bernie and I every single week, and ad-free reading experiences at stlsportscentral.com. Plus, you'll be supporting local independent sports media, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's always the best part.
Yeah, we want you to. We are going to be talking, obviously, about Brendan Donovan a little bit more today, a little bit more of the fallout. By the way, we had an opportunity, and thanks to Matthew Rocchio for setting this up, to get together with our friend Danny Wexelman from Sirius XM Radio and SNY. She, of course, a native of St. Louis, who really covers amateur and minor league and college baseball, and is well aware of the players that the Cardinals got in return for Brendan Donovan. So that will drop pretty soon on STL Sports Central. Correct?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to drop tonight, and go ahead and watch that. She really does a great job breaking down Senja and Pete. Doesn't have as much experience with Ledbetter, but really a fantastic download for the 2 big pieces of the puzzle in Senja and Ty Pete, both the Mariners prospects, actually Ledbetter, the Rays prospect. So a great download. That'll hit tonight. Might dive into a little bit of what she has for us tomorrow. Don't want to give you guys a preview of something you can't immediately go watch. That feels a little teasy. Yeah. So we'll hold back. We're going to break down a little bit more. But to high Reflections point, he says, before you guys spend the next hour talking about the trade, Nashville did just score another goal. We're not going to spend the whole hour today talking about the Cardinals. We have an incredible amount of awesome content. We have an hour-long show under the live tab that kind of got all of the thoughts from Brendan Schaefer, Joe Roderick, Randy Karraker, and Mike Claiborne. That's the first of our Brendan Donovan reaction shows, and that was just kind of a reaction to the fact that it was happening because we didn't have the return yet. Then there's another around an hour-long show that you can watch that was Randy and Joe Roderick for the majority of the time. Brendan Schaefer was also on for a little bit there as well, and then we reacted to the actual return of the 3 prospects and the 2 picks for Donnie. We'll also have that interview up for Danny Wexelman. So there's so much Brendan Donovan reaction on the show. We will cover it for a solid chunk today, but the things we didn't get to yesterday because the show got cut short because of the Donnie information, which is mainly right now the Blues now losing 2 in a row in very different fashion, and the Billikens in action tonight after a very busy weekend. We will get to both of those topics plenty today on the show.
We will, but we do want to touch on a couple of things that are fallouts from the Brendan Donovan trade. I want to start with the draft choices, and one of the things that Chaim Bloom said today in his press conference, and we'll hear a little bit from Bloom in a moment, but he said that the draft choices were part of, and do we have him saying that?
Yes.
Part of what put this trade over the top, the compensatory picks that the Cardinals received from Seattle or Tampa in this trade. Tampa, they were a big part of, they were the biggest part of getting this trade over the top.
Really important. The deal would not have happened without their inclusion. Obviously, as I've talked about all off season, we wanted to set a bar pretty high if we were going to contemplate something like this. As much as we are thinking long term, there still should be a pretty high bar when you have someone who's as valuable as Brendan. And the value of those shots in the top 100 picks of the draft is real. Obviously, it's on us to maximize them. There's going to be a lot of work that will go into that, as there will for all the other picks that we have, and just being around our amateur staff, and also seeing the collaboration that's really starting to flourish between a lot of folks in our amateur staff and the rest of the front office, whether it's returning folks, new folks who are new to the organization, that I think we're going to be able to build on this year too, especially on the hitting side with some new leadership there. Like, that's very encouraging for, I think, where our process, which was already obviously pretty productive, can go. So it excites me for us to have more shots in the draft to add impact talent to the organization. Obviously, we considered a number of different possibilities in thinking about returns here, and talked to a number of different clubs. So it wasn't like we were focused on that above all else, but certainly think that they are very valuable, and the value that those picks represent was an important piece of this decision.
Draft picks in baseball, just like every other sport, are becoming more and more and more valuable. It used to be that you never saw a second rounder in the NBA traded, and now all of a sudden second rounders in the NBA are like gold, aren't they? Teams love to stock up on them. And it's the same thing in baseball. A second round pick in baseball now, because you only have a 20-round draft, there's two things that go into this. Number one, you want to have as many picks within the 20 rounds as you can possibly have, but to have as many picks as you can early. And I think the Cardinals have 5 of the top 75.
Yeah, it feels a lot like we're covering an NFL team again.
Yeah, it really
it's like 5 of the top 75, and you're supposed to sit there and go, oh, wow, they have capital. Like, that's an NFL draft reaction.
But the way the Cardinals are looking at this, in talking to Cardinal folks over the course of the last week or so, is they're really excited about Tanner Franklin, who was their second rounder last year from Tennessee after Liam Doyle. And we had heard when he got drafted that if he would have been pitching for any other school but Tennessee, he would have been a Friday or Saturday starter. He was a bullpen guy, Sunday starter occasionally for Tennessee, but he would have been a front of the rotation college starter. Franklin would have. And the Cardinals were able to get him with the 72nd pick. So they're excited about that. And Matthew, I think that we need to just put it in perspective that the Cardinals have, and hopefully they are better at evaluating talent than the last regime, but they get 5 assets in exchange for 1 player.
I mean, that's a fantastic go-to. Again, it's you never know with prospects. And if somebody tells you a prospect's a no doubter and they're not, a top like 1 pick, like Paul Skeens or Bryce Harper, they're lying to you. It just doesn't really exist in baseball. And so to get as many darts to throw at the board as possible, that's a big deal. And so I think it says something that, those 2 picks are what put the deal over, because the potential of what a pick can be is always going to be a little bit worth more than the reality of what it probably will be. And that's kind of the game you're playing with. On this side of things, it maybe looks a little risky, but I just think that's how you have to play the game, is you have to value picks like they could be something more special than what you have right now, because there's always that potential. And at the same time, you get high risk or high ceiling, high floor player, or high ceiling, sometimes low floor players. I would argue Sanjo would be high ceiling, high floor, because worst case scenario, he's a righty. Best case scenario, we've never seen anything like him. Ty Pete seems a little bit more high ceiling, low floor, because striking out 162 times in back-to-back years, not great, but adding power
in his age 18 and 19
exactly
years,
and adding power in his age 19 year is a significant factor the other way. He's rangy, he's a really, really good athlete. And so adding these darts to your board, and the board's a little bit bigger now. So it was a pretty small board they were throwing out earlier. Board's got a little bigger, and you have more darts. That's how I would look at this for the Blues, is they have more picks, they have more options, and the options they do have just got a lot better. All of this is good, and you can look at every prospect ranking. Kylan McDaniel did a really fascinating one on ESPN. I'm meaning to email him and try to get him on the show, where he broke down farm systems, and he gave all prospects like a dollar value.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And the Cardinals moved up from 9th to 7th in his move by adding Senja and Pete. Mariners obviously moved down, I think, from 7 to 9 in a corresponding move because they lost those prospects. But the farm system's growing, it's getting better. And if you listen to the Chaim Bloom interview, there's another piece of content that's on STL Sports Central's YouTube page. That one's also under a live, because we ran that one live today from Chaim Bloom. You hear him talk about how all these things we're saying about getting more options, about pumping up the farm system, about it being the future for this team. And that's why I've seen a lot of people in the chats yesterday when we were live who have thoughts like Walter here, who said this is terrible, that Brendan Donovan is a team player. It never should have happened. But the bottom line is that it did happen, and Chaim Bloom's job is to fix it. And Taco Dell 95 is right. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, and hey, the reality of sports now is that most players, the vast majority of players, don't spend their entire career with one team. Jose Ramirez is going to in Cleveland, which is wonderful. Obviously, Jeter did, and Posada did, and Mariano Rivera did with the Yankees, and Yachty did here in St. Louis. But if you go back in the course of time, you look at the number of just Cardinals. The Cardinals have 2 of all of their Hall of Famers that have spent their entire career with one team, and Yachty would be the third. But Musial and Gibson are the only 2 Cardinal Hall of Famers to have spent their entire career, and this was before free agency, with one team. Dizzy Dean got traded, Enos Slaughter got traded, Red Schoendienst got traded, Rogers Hornsby got traded. I mean, down the line, you've had all of these people, great players that have been traded. So that's one part of this. The other part of this is that as opposed to then, players do cost more now, and you have to pay more to keep a player around. And then the other, I think the biggest part of this is that the Cardinals have torn this down to the studs, and we all love. And by the way, Chaim got a little choked up today in talking about trading Brendan Donovan. Everybody loves Brendan Donovan. He's a good player, and as I've said, perfect for the Cardinals and perfect for other teams too. But when you can get 5 things for him, and maybe even 6 things, we'll bring that up in a second. But when you can get that much quality or at least quantity for one guy, you, in my opinion, have to pursue that. Now, you're wondering what
the hell's what's the 6th thing?
You've got a left-handed pitcher and a right-handed pitcher.
Okay,
all right,
fair enough.
Let's listen to Chaim, because the Mariners had talked about how they were going to have Senja be just a right-handed pitcher. The Cardinals aren't so sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we because that was another thing. People had just seen the news because the Mariners had their fan fest thing this past weekend. DePoto had an interesting clip that we would have played yesterday had the show continued. And they talked about how they're going to move him to the right side. But there was a little thing in there that I mentioned in the chat yesterday when we were live, that it did say in there that he was still going to throw bullpens left-handed. That was the Seattle's plan, is that he was going to do all his starts, all his appearances in spring as a righty, but he was still going to throw bullpens as a lefty. And coming up to later on today in our interview with SiriusXM's Danny Wexelman, she breaks down why she thinks it's a real possibility that we could still see it. And to your point, Chaim said, yes, probably more righty, but we're still going to have him do the lefty things, so he kind of keeps up with it, and eventually they'll kind of see what it is. Because if it does break that way, and it is something that he can figure out his control from that side, because it's he throws harder from the right side, but it's not a speed thing necessarily from the left side. It's a control thing. If he can figure that out, like you said, it becomes another weapon.
One thing that I keep hearing from Chaim Bloom that I really like is, as an example here, we are going to find out from Jurangelo, and by the way, his nickname is Lo Senja, what he likes to do and what he feels like he can be best at. They're giving Herrera the opportunity to catch because he thinks he can catch. They want to find out about Ty Pete and find out what he is and what he wants to be and how he's going to go out about his business. I think it's pretty cool that the Cardinals are being open-minded enough to find out what players want to be first, and then if it doesn't work out for them, then maybe they'll wind up doing something else. But I think if you want to foster goodwill among your players, you give them the opportunity to do what they think they're good at first, or what they're really comfortable with, and that includes Senja throwing from both sides. And then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if you're a young player, you love the idea. You have to love the idea of being given that opportunity to participate in the game that you think you're best at.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that. By the way, Skyboy67, who you would think Donnie is an MVP, the way that some of these fans are acting. Some people are very doom and gloom, but I'm not surprised by that. One other aspect of kind of the potential of this deal, looking at the Ty Pete factor, something we've talked about a lot. I know you mentioned this yesterday.
Light tower power.
But power that he's added at a young age, and the athleticism tells you could be a center fielder. Now, that's a huge thing for the Cardinals because, as we've talked about, right now it's Victor Scott II, it's Church, and pretty thin after that.
Yeah.
So getting Ty Pete, who at his, best case scenario, lowers the strikeouts a little bit, raises the power alongside it, continues to be an athlete, doesn't have to add any weight or anything like that, or any bulk to continue that power, and all of a sudden he stays a rangy player who can play center field. Now, as we all knew with Jim Edmonds in the lineup, that's quite the weapon when you have a center fielder who's got power.
Yeah, and the Cardinals are all about, from Chaim Bloom on down, they're all about bat-to-ball skills, and they'll work with a guy like Pete on the bat-to-ball skills, and perhaps he'll be one of those guys like Gorman where when he hits the ball, it goes, but it's just a matter of him hitting the ball on a consistent basis. And Chaim talked about that with Gorman today too, but maybe if Pete winds up being one of those guys and he's a 25% strikeout guy, but he's hitting 35 home runs, you take the strikeouts and trade them for those home runs.
And it was a little note in kind of the scouting report on MLB.com. So take that for what you will. But there was a little note in there that kind of the scout's opinion was that if Pete tweaks his swing a little bit, it'll help him in his overall approach at the plate and obviously getting back to ball contact. So that's something I'm sure the Cardinals, and why in the answer we played from Chaim Bloom, he talks about his excitement in developing these players. And of course he was talking about draft picks, but obviously this still equates to a guy as young as Ty Pete, who will be as young as some of those draft picks. The changes they're making in the hitting side of the development part of this team, that bodes well for Ty Pete's development.
Yeah, and that goes back to the hiring of Brand Brown. The Cardinals like what Brown did with the Dodgers, actually, and people having people like Max Muncy improve and having people like Taylor improve. Those guys that were kind of left for dead by some of their organizations, and when the Dodgers got them, they wound up performing at a higher level. And so that's one of the things the Cardinals, from the top, from Major League on down, they're preaching to their minor league teams is bat-to-ball skills. Some guys are just power hitters, and perhaps Ty Pete is just one of those guys where he's going to strike out a lot, but you are not a finished product at 20 years old, and he's going to play this year at age 20. And my guess would be that his ETA is probably 28 or 29 because he's only 28 years old. He's still got to learn how to play, and the Cardinals are not going to rush guys anymore. That's another thing about this regime is, as opposed to a guy like Jordan Walker or Scott, who were rushed before they were ready, the Cardinals are really big now on having players earn their way to the major league level and get their at-bats or get their innings down there and get polished up. Not that they're going to be sitting down there for 4 or 5 years if they're a college player, but the Cardinals want to make sure that if a player is getting the opportunity at the minor league level, that he's able to have a clear path to the major leagues. And that, as a player, that's all you can ask for.
Excuse me. Dave Sipes on the Facebook says trading Donovan was a good move. We get more prospects, and Brendan would have probably been leaving just about the time when the Cardinals were getting good.
You're right.
Yeah, I think
you're not wrong.
In all the scope from the Cardinals' perspective, which was a player with only 2 years of control who was almost 30 years old, I don't know if I would have technically used the words, the phrase "blown away" had the Cardinals not put those words in my mouth. But I'm willing to agree that, or to see how this would have blown the Cardinals away. Senja, again, Pete, adding those two guys, that was actually kind of, that was one of the early Mariners deals we threw out. Was Senja,
right?
Yeah, it was Senja and one of the other non-Montez outfielders. Yeah. And that was one of the other ones when we kind of figured out that Montez and Senja was just way too much. And we figured out maybe Senja and one of the other outfielders. So we kind of figured this out. So to add a Ledbetter throw-in from Tampa Bay plus the 2 Comp B picks, absolutely blown away, I think is fair.
By the way, most observers are believing that the Mariners will play Donovan at third base rather than at second, and he'll lead off and play third. Obviously, last year they acquired Eugenio Suarez. He left as a free agent, signed with the Reds. So Donnie will probably play third, and then they have a former first rounder to play second base, at least at the outset of spring training. And that's what I kind of thought, is that when I was thinking that they would take a look at their group of second basemen, I thought that they would determine whether or not those guys could play at second base before they made a deal. But I wasn't considering the third base prospect for Brendan Donovan, so he'll probably wind up there.
That's why versatility helps when you're trying to trade a guy like that. Enrico Palazzo with an interesting takeaway. You brought up Himes, kind of the points he's making and why you think that means that we're not going to, why you think it means, I think why we can, or why we're can take it from it, that they will not be forcing players up this year. So Enrico Palazzo says that's why Doyle won't be in St. Louis this year. Do you think that pertains to somebody like him, who has maybe a little bit more just raw talent, and I think and kind of has the correct attitude and intensity level for Major League Baseball?
I think those all apply. And I think the other thing that you have to keep in mind about Liam Doyle is that he has played a lot of baseball in college.
Yes, exactly.
And so when you're talking about guys that have played in college baseball right now is great. College baseball is, well, they're stealing a lot of coaches and a lot of people from Major League Baseball. That's how well they're coached. And obviously Doyle's coach at Tennessee is now a major league manager. And one of his hitting coaches down there is also in the major leagues now. And Tony Vitello did a great job with those players. But a guy like Doyle played at Ole Miss in 24 and then Tennessee last year. And he's got a lot of experience. So I would think that will play a role in how quickly he makes it to the major league level. Let me just get you the games for innings might be a better gauge. Is there a rule of thumb for this? Like in the NFL, like in the past, like I think it might have been Bill Parcells who like would talk about like 40 starts for a quarterback. And I think like Donovan McNabb's like one of the only like that
successful guys.
Doesn't play anymore.
But like I'm saying for like college pitchers, like is there like an innings count? Like MLB teams want them to get to be like confident they could push it.
Yeah. In talking though to Rob Cerfolio about that very subject, because people like Langford and Gilkey and Jordan, they all had like a couple of thousand at bats in the minors. Now you don't have as many minor league teams. You only have 4 as opposed to 7 when those guys were in the minor leagues. So you don't have as many opportunities to develop players as you did. You have to get them through and out of your system. That being said, I do believe that there's a place for that. But no, the Cardinals are not going to put a number on that. They aren't going to say, okay, this player needs X amount of at-bats or innings to make it to the major leagues. In addition to what they're seeing from their analytics, from their velocity, from their exit velo, launch angle, how they're performing from that perspective at the minor league level, I think they'll use the eye test more and determine, okay, what more can this guy accomplish at the minor league level? A guy like J.J. Weatherholt, he's not going to be able to do any more in the minors. He's done pretty much everything he can. He might have 1,000 minor league at bats, but that'd be it.
Yeah.
By the way, so I didn't realize that Liam Doyle actually went to 3 colleges. He had the old Kevin Coleman thing going.
Oh, really?
Coastal Carolina as a freshman, and then he played at Ole Miss as a sophomore, and then Tennessee as a junior.
Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, I didn't realize. I forgot he made the multiple jumps.
Through in his 3 college seasons, he threw only 207 innings, and he's got 232 at all levels. So they need to build him up, his arm strength up, his arm durability up. But I still would not be at all surprised to see him here at the major league level in August or September.
Mama says, would you bring them up knowing there will be a lost year next year with the lockout? Enrico Palazzo says that's another reason not to do it. I actually think that's even more of a reason to do it, especially if we're just talking
to rush guys,
not to rush guys, but to bring guys up in August and September of this year. Because if they're ready, obviously you don't want to rush them. But I'm saying if I'm just making the decision based off, do I want a guy to get 2 months of experience before a lost season or not? I think you'd want as many young guys as possible, if they're ready, to play in August and September, because the lessons you learn in those 2 months going into a lot of extra off time, I think you want to know, this is something that I am not ready for as an MLB player. And now we go into maybe an extended period of lockout. Maybe now you have a personal coach. You can't work with the Cardinals coaches. So then you think to yourself, okay, I have to get better at this thing. Maybe they have an extra 2 months to work on that one thing. I want Liam Doyle to go against Major League Baseball hitters for a month and then go into potentially a lockout if there is one and say to himself, okay, with all this extra time, what am I working on? And he's now taking the experience of being a major league pitcher and using that to grow during the lockout. That's what I want. So actually, even more so, because of the potential extra time away from the Cardinals, I want him to experience what it's like to be a Major League Baseball pitcher against Major League Baseball hitters.
At its core, I don't disagree. However, there's always a however, isn't there? Here's my retort. Can I provide a retort?
Of course you can.
The guys that are here are already going to be young. You want to see Liberatore go through that. You want to see McGreevy go through that. You want to see Leahy go through that. You want to see Dick Fitz go through that. You want to see Hunter Dobbins go through all of that. There's only so many places on your roster that you have, and I want to see those guys grow too. And the other part of it is, I don't want to, and we don't know what's going to happen with the new CBA. And I know this sounds unfair because it's a money thing, but I don't want to start Liam Doyle's clock for the last 2 months of a season that's leading into a lockout.
I get it I always get it. Yeah, getting from the contractual side of things, I get it. That one always makes sense for me. I was just looking at it from the baseball experience.
From a baseball standpoint, it depends on what the other guys are doing, what injuries you have, and how effective they are. I didn't even include Dustin May. I'm just assuming that Dustin May pitched well enough to get traded.
Yes, I hope so.
And the other question, the Cardinals have not given up on my guy Quinn Matthews.
No, they shouldn't have.
He actually is another guy that got rushed.
He's got to be a dark.
Through 4 levels in 24 and threw something like 143 innings and struck out 202. And then last year, all of a sudden, he's starting in AAA and probably shouldn't have been there. He was way ahead of schedule in 24. But the Cardinals still like his ability, and they think that he can be a front to the rotation starter.
I don't think there's any reason with Dobbins not ready, and
from a health standpoint
for the start of the season,
Dobby, by the way,
and with us, not that much MLB experience with guys like Dick Fitz. And we don't even know, what does Kyle Leahy look like when he's actually a starter instead of a reliever? I don't think there should be any reason he has a blip, but maybe he does. And they don't want to go with Palante. I think there's not a bad chance that Matthews, we see him by like May, because he's old enough. He's got the experience. As long as he's healthy, we saw some of the big strikeout games. We know he's going to, not be the most efficient pitcher in the world. I don't know how much that's going to get solved with a month or two in AAA this year. He's a guy that, with how much experience he has, to your point, as a college pitcher and as a minor league pitcher, there's no reason, in my opinion, he shouldn't be one of the first names called up if somebody picks up an injury.
Agreed. If there's an injury, I'm with you. Is there a better name? Maybe not in baseball. We'll have to put some thought into this. But right now, I mean, Dick Fitz has to be the best name in baseball, doesn't it?
Yes, it has to be. It's incredible.
It is.
His parents are just.
Yeah, probably. Quinn Matthews needs another season of minor league baseball.
I don't think so.
He's another guy. He pitched at Stanford for 4 years.
Yeah, I'm saying.
And has a couple of years of pro baseball under his belt already, 24 and 25. He had the back and how long did you think he dealt with that last week?
About a week back.
There you go. Thank you. And then in addition to that, he had a shoulder issue last year.
He has almost 600 innings, counting college and minor leagues.
There you go. I am of the opinion that he is A, pretty close to being ready, and B, we talk about getting rushed, but I also think that last year, I wonder if you would ask him, give him some truth serum and say, okay, was your command negatively affected by that shoulder injury? I'll bet that it was. I'll bet he lost command and walked so many guys and was so inefficient in part because of the shoulder injury.
Right now, if he came up this season, he would have almost the exact same trajectory as Kyle Leahy, who hit St. Louis when he was 26 years old, when he had 500 innings pitched in the minors. It's almost the exact same numbers and innings pitched in age as when Leahy broke through in 2023. Matthews is right in that line. 500 innings in the minor in college, and then hit when you're 26. maybe he's a long bullpen piece, and then he's eventually a starter.
Okay, I got one more question on this before we move on, and we've got some other things to talk about, including the Billikens of St. Louis University. This is my question for you and for you, Matthew, that we really aren't even considering here in St. Louis, and that is this. What if J.J. Weatherholt is terrible at the beginning? What if J.J. Weatherholt goes like 1 for 47?
I said this last week. Like if he can't be in your lineup, and now they've traded Brendan Donovan, Lord Almighty, oh man,
hello Jose Fermin, or is it JC at second base, right? But here's the thing, because the likelihood is that Gorman is not going to be good based upon what we've seen over the last couple of years. I want him to be good. I hope he's good, but the likelihood is that he won't. Also, based on his overall body of work, the likelihoods, again, is there, Walker.
But just what if?
What if he's great? But the other problem that you have, though, you might have a young team that can do absolutely nothing. Because Wynn was not a good offensive player last year. You might have a team where Herrera and Burleson are your only guys that you can say, okay, those are good hitters. It's not out of the realm of possibility that if you have to play Nathan Church. Why do
I keep doing it too. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Nathan Church. If it's Church, Scott, Walker, none of those guys hit above 210 last year. And then Gorman, Wynn, who did not have a good offensive year, Weatherholt, and then
this rat bastard, who of course had Jeff. Yeah, exactly. This rat bastard is going to ruin us.
Yeah, there he is. But and then let's just put Pais behind the plate and put Herrera as your DH. So that's a pretty. If Weatherholt isn't good and the other guys don't ascend, that has a chance to be a pretty rugged starting nine.
So, I mean, we're talking about two good bats out of the 9.
Well, right.
Burleson and Herrera.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 proven bats.
Theoretically,
I guess potentially Newbar gets healthy. That's the third one.
I'm just talking about the first.
But yeah, out of the gate,
we're
talking about Burleson and Herrera being the only 2 legitimate bats in the entire lineup.
Not that Mason Wynn is incapable. We know that Wynn is capable of being solid offensively. Every indication is that Weatherholt is going to be fine offensively. So you're looking at right away. Now you're all of a sudden up to 4. Ollie Marmol thinks that his breakout player this year is going to be Victor Scott II.
That'd be nice.
What he's really excited about. So that'll give you 5. And then another one chips in, and then all of a sudden you got something going. I'm thinking worst case scenario, because I like to be, as Goose Gossage would call us, a negative blanker.
By the way, we're currently living in a timeline that led us here by multiple worst case scenarios, all happening consecutively. So it's not being negative at this point; it's just being realistic. Mm-hmm. I mean, Gorman kind of fell on his face a little bit. Walker's fallen on his face. It hasn't been great when it comes to big name Cardinals bats over the last few years. Again, Mason Wynn and Victor Scott, not bad, but still, you talk about big power bats that are supposed to be, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. The last 2 big ones and a couple of the outfielders before that were supposed to be those bats. Not great. The track record isn't good.
It's been a long time. By the way, we do get that. Who is that? Holy Grail?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about Willie Mays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Willie had a rough go of it. So
he did, didn't he?
He was actually 0 for 14, and then I think he started 0 for 15. He was 0 for 5 in his first game. No, you're right, 0 for 9, 12. His first 3 games, 0 for 12, but then had 1 hit, and he started something like 5 for 50 or something like that. Willie did not have the best start, and the Giants were talking about sending him down. They didn't, and that was a good move on their part. But I hope that J.J. Weatherholt does an awful lot of things like Willie Mays did.
That would be nice. I would really, I hope so. And heck, I'd pay a lot of money to watch that.
Yeah, you will.
I will.
Good. We need somebody to buy tickets. Hey, I found a cool thing at DraftKings Sportsbook today.
Oh, okay.
And as we head towards the Super Bowl, I think that this is a really fun thing. There are so many cool, different bets that you can do for the Super Bowl. The novelty bets, as they call them, and the novelty props are great. So I've got one for you. The odds of a red zone interception are very low. I think there will be a red zone interception, and the odds for either quarterback to throw a red zone interception plus 330. So I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to go with that passing prop. Just look for those, and plus 330 just for a red zone interception. Darnold or May, one of those guys is bound to throw a red zone pick, aren't they?
Sports history is just cyclical, in your opinion?
Yeah.
If there was another red zone interception in a Seattle Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl, that's insane. That would be absolutely insane.
Yeah. So we're going to go with that. And I like that plus 330. So that's what I'm going with. And Super Bowl 60 deserves a sportsbook built for the moment. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the Super Bowl, puts you right at the center of the biggest game of the year. And when anything can happen during the Super Bowl, DraftKings has your back with early exit. If a player goes down in the first half, you still get paid out in cash immediately once your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. And like I said, you can look at that one. You can look at Drake May to go. He's roughly 221.5 yards over under. Drake May's not going to throw for 221.5 yards against that defense, I don't think. So go for it. If you're new to DraftKings, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use this code STL Sports, the one that's on your screen. That's code STL Sports to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
By the way, Drake May now at minus 112 to go under 2.5, 220.5 yards.
Okay, I like that.
Good value.
There you go.
Good value there.
Like I said, I'm all on that running that running ladder for Travion Henderson. So run the ball, Patriots, and I'll be happy.
All right, there you go. St. Louis University basketball, number 19 in the country, is at Davidson tonight. A later start, an 8:00 start St. Louis time, 9:00 in the East. And so those people are going to be up late, those college students. The top 20 Billikens will apparently have Robbie Avila being touch and go. He's sick, huh?
Yeah, he's a little bit touch and go right now. We don't know. It's a game time decision, according to Josh Schertz. He told that to Rothstein. He told that to Stu Durando. So potentially a shorthanded Billikens team. This sickness just keeps on running right on through them.
I know.
It's not getting everybody at once. It got Trey Green. I think it got Brady Dunlap. It definitely got Brady Dunlap. Now it's getting Robbie. I think it might have gotten... did it get Q or Sharma in there or Thames? I think I might have gotten Thames, who was sick as well. So it's gotten a couple Billikens and potentially could hold down Robbie Avila tonight. But the Billikens are riding higher.
And how it's not like Davidson has Steph Curry.
Well, no, Davidson doesn't have Steph Curry, but they are potentially the best shooting team that the Billikens are going to face in conference. 3 shooters on the wing who all hit 36 to 30 to 42%. Another one deep off the bench who's 6'7", who hits like 38%, somewhere around there. So you have 3 or 4 pretty good shooters. They haven't gone up against this kind of glut of shooting this year, but the Davidsons, kind of is a solid team for a reason, but they're not spectacular for a reason, and that is they don't have a lot of motion going on inside. Not a lot of shot blockers, not a lot of scoring going on in the paint. So if Robbie Avila is out of the game, I think it's going to be tricky for the Billikens because they run a lot of their offense through that center spot, but they have Paul Otieno, who seems to be one of those centers who plays better if he gets more time in a game, and they know how to play small ball where either Amari McCautry or potentially even Kellen Thames is playing as the small ball 5. So you add in those kind of things. This doesn't seem to be the worst possible matchup. Obviously, if the Billikens had their druthers and they had to sit Robbie Avila, it'd be the home game against Loyola Chicago. So an away game isn't what you want the most, but nonetheless, the Billikens are built to withstand these kind of shorthanded games because they already have.
All right. How about St. Louis U to the Big East? We've talked about this for a long time. Even when Rick Majerus was alive, we were talking about St. Louis University to the Big East. And Eric Schmidt, the senator from the great state of Missouri. You want to know Eric? Well, I'll tell you one Eric Schmidt story. Right?
Okay, go for it.
When he was when Eric Schmidt was he was the attorney general for the state of Missouri during the pandemic. And we might have even been working together, right? At least you know this story. So he's the attorney general for the state of Missouri. And he doesn't like masks, which is fine. You don't have to like masks. But I live in St. Louis County. I pay taxes in St. Louis County. I also live in Missouri, and I pay taxes in Missouri. He files a lawsuit with funds that are generated from my tax dollars, and he files a lawsuit against St. Louis County. So I was suing myself because of this bozo. All right? I don't need that. But anyway, he sent a letter to Val Ackerman to try to get Val Ackerman is the commissioner of the Big East. And he sent a letter to Val Ackerman saying that St. Louis University should be in the Big East. I don't know that we need government intervention to try to get St. Louis University into the Big East Conference.
You know who else doesn't think that?
Who?
The Big East. This is from the Eye on College Basketball podcast. Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander. They do a fantastic job, and they got into a little bit of this talk as well as both the letter from Schmidt, the Big East reaction, and if the Billikens ultimately do, in fact, fit in the potential future of the Big East.
I want to just check in. I then got told by like Big East affiliated people, like, hey, this is not the way to do it. And in fact, you might have hurt your chances by how you handled this. So
Yeah, Mark-
not that St. Louis couldn't thrive in the Big East, but I was told there is no momentum right now for either of those schools for candidacy, despite the politicians lobbying for it to happen earlier this year.
That's fine, but it is a thought I've had about St. Louis, particularly since it built this building. Because, like, you know, when I was in college, I think Memphis was in a league with St. Louis. So I was familiar with the program. You've got the market. It's a major league market, a really nice on-campus building. Like, what would prevent St. Louis from being Xavier other than the Big East affiliation and the right coach? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, smarter people than I can answer that question, but I've always thought if you just gave that, exactly like what we were talking about with Central Florida earlier, give them the power conference affiliation and then it'll go. I've always thought with St. Louis basketball, if you put it in the Big East, it would start to look like a Big East. It would start to look like a biggest program.
I think there are slew fans right now that are like, music to our ears. We've believed this for 2 decades. Yeah. I'm not even saying that you're wrong. I just think the Big East right now still likes the fact that it's got the 11-team double round robin, 20 game, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
100%. And there's the key right there at the end.
Yep.
Follow always in situations like this, follow the money. All right. Those 11 teams don't want to share any more revenue unless St. Louis U and Dayton could provide them more television revenue because of their market sizes. Those schools, why should they welcome St. Louis U and Dayton? Now, if Senator Eric Schmidt can guarantee that St. Louis U, their presence in the SEC would guarantee SEC. I don't think SLU's going to the SEC. The Big East would generate more dollars for them. Then they're all in. I don't know where the contract is, the TV contract right now with the Big East.
Not up for a couple more years.
Okay, so there you go. I don't think that makes much sense for the Big East either. And I would love for St. Louis U to be in the Big East. I think that they are a perfect fit for the conference. And I do believe that if Rick Majerus had died 2 years later, then we wouldn't be talking about this because SLU would have been in the Big East probably for the last dozen years.
Yeah, 100%. They probably would have been they would have been in when it was still nascent because Big East was formed obviously in 2013 when the football schools split off to make the American. They made the Big East, and it's all been gangbusters for them for the most part. Obviously, they're not very good this year. But other than that, one other thing I do want to
better chance to get in the tournament for St. Louis University this year if they are in the Big East or if they're in the A-10.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's the Big East because their conference schedule is a lot better. And probably if they're in the Big East,
I think playing in a down conference gives SLU a better chance.
Well, I would argue it would give them a better chance because their non-con would also be their conference would be better, but their non-con would also be better because if they're where they're at early on and with the expectations they're at, more Power 5 teams take the risk to play them because it's a Q1 loss, not a Q2 or Q3 loss. So because all those tertiary things, it does make it easier because of the schedule to get in. I do want to mention one thing, which is that the morning after over on 101 is tied in with Mark Schmidt a little bit. Apparently he did have lunch with Val Ackerman.
Mark or Eric?
Sorry, did I say Mark? I meant Eric. Sorry,
Okay.
Mark Schmidt's the coach of VCU. So apparently, sorry, Eric
probably Vaughn and here, buddies.
Yes. So the junior senator from Missouri apparently did have a lunch with Val Ackerman. And I'm not sure whether or not that was before or after Matt Norlander, who I also trust his sources. I trust TMA's as well. They just had Schmidt in studio, and so. But I trust Norlander also saying that there's people around him who are saying that there's people in the Big East who would be kind of ticked off by the political move in. And what my view from the reporting from TMA is that I don't know what else are conference commissioners doing all day.
That's a great question.
I just is her taking a meeting with the senator from Missouri actually like something like I don't know what conversation was had there. I have a feeling he presented a lot of positive things. At the same point, I have a feeling that I'm not really sure what he could present that she is not aware of, because to your point, a lot of this gets down to splitting up the pie, the fact that the pie can't be renegotiated for a couple of years. Can the Billikens then pay some kind of massive entry fee to then make up for the fact that you haven't added it in? Val Ackerman doesn't need to be told by the senator from Missouri that adding the St. Louis market could get them a bigger TV deal when they re-up things. That's a fairly obvious potential benefit of adding the St. Louis market to the Big East TV deal. But again, the timing factor can't really be changed by the senator from Missouri. So I'm not really sure how much the lunch matters, but I did want to put it out there that apparently a lunch was had.
Oh, I hope it was delicious.
I mean, I'm sure it was.
Now, one other point here. Val Ackerman, like any other commissioner, works for the 11 school presidents. She can't go to them and say, okay, we're bringing in SLU and Dayton, or we're bringing in SLU. No, they have to approve. The university presidents have to approve the addition of teams. So maybe the lunches need to be taken with the presidents at Georgetown and Villanova and Creighton and DePaul and Marquette. Maybe our great senator needs to start making the rounds and talking to the presidents, the people that are the real bosses that could make a decision rather than having political showmanship for us.
Yeah. So I think, I just, you got to show the Big East the money. You got to show Big East the consistency. And if you want to do either of those things, you're going to have to first show Josh Schertz the money and hope he stays at least one more year.
I wonder what big time jobs are open after this season. When you look around,
Syracuse,
okay, I wonder if Josh Schertz really is that his spot. I don't know. It could be a great job.
I know Providence fans want him, but I'm honestly doubting whether or not they fire Kim English this fast. They should, but I love Kimmy, but struggling right now. They should, but I don't know if they pull the plug on him that fast. But Syracuse is going to be a big one. There you don't know what's going to happen. There's
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma could open up. K-State with Dana Altman maybe at Oregon. Retirement, but still, Oregon could open up as well. So there's going to be plenty of Power Fives that open up, and they are going to probably back up the Brinks truck to Josh Schertz, and by the way, then it'll come to like a culture kind of thing.
Yep. And speaking of backing up the big Brinks truck, the reason that Richard Chaffetz has been wearing San Francisco Giants caps at the games recently is because he just bought into the ownership of the San Francisco Giants. He's got a few dollars too. How
many Brinks trucks you got, Doc? Because I know one's on its way to San Fran, but roll up that Escalade to the next game, roll up the Brinks truck right behind it, and I think everybody's pretty damn happy. Everyone's it's just so much fun, and I people I'm sure have seen it, but I wanted to just play at least just in the background as we're kind of talking shirts here. So I'm going to start playing it. Wilson, do me a favor, and you can go hit the mute. I just want this to play in the background because it was too much fun. Go ahead and here I can do it. This is Schertz at Humphreys down in Midtown on Friday night. And he put a post out that he was going to go Look at it, he's doing a pinky promise with a fan. What does this guy not do? He put out a
promising to stay.
I wish and hope. He put out a tweet that he was going to go to Humphreys and buy a round after the game. Obviously, as you can see from what's happening here, that is not exactly what happened. He ended up just turning Humphreys into an absolute scene, and I'm sure some people have seen the clips. They went all around. I got very lucky to make the decision to go to Humphreys and be able to catch all this stuff. Also, that's Josh Schertz's incredibly awesome wife who's sitting there partying with him behind the bar. I mean, these kind of scenes, watch, they're going to touch his head. Just hilarious. These scenes are just incredible. I mean, if they can keep this rolling for more than just one more season, it's special, because right now St. Louis, obviously, we're just talking about how the Cardinals are in a rebuild. We're talking about how the Blues are in a rebuild. We're going to talk about them tanking here in a little bit. City is also kind of rebuilding as well. There's not that much else that's a winning product right now.
Well,
and the Billikens are fun to watch, and they're winning.
And Josh has made this an attractive job.
Yes.
This is a place where you can win, you can sell out. It's a sports town where if you put a good product on the court or the ice or the field, St. Louis fans are going to show out, and the money is pretty significant. It might not be the $7 or $8 million a year that John Calipari is getting from Arkansas, but the money is pretty substantial from Chaffetz and the folks from lodging, hospitality management and stuff.
You got to get him probably up closer to 4 from the 2 or 3 he's at now, closer to 4 from a roster price of around, apparently Curry Hicks Sage, who's a very good basketball broadcaster, and I trust him when he has these numbers. He thinks that SLU's more around 4 or 5 right now for the roster. I thought it was more like 3 or 4. Apparently it's more around 4 or 5 right now, but also apparently, if we're just talking about some of the names you already mentioned,
NIL money.
Providence apparently is going to promise their next coach $12 million.
Wow.
So, and then you have the quote today from John Calipari where he was saying, actually Calipari, I think I meant Patino, where he was talking about how what you need, what the Big East needs to do to survive with the other power conferences is that every team has to be willing to spend at least like $7 or $8 million NIL.
Yeah.
Stu Durando threw it out there. He's like, okay, we're gonna have the Big East conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Patino just laid down the gauntlet about how much money you have to have in this game if you're going to be a Big East team. We know that the Billikens are around $4 or $5 million right now. Do they have a place where, especially after the biggest season potentially in school history, that all the other donors, not just the O'Glaughlins, who obviously put in a lot of money for the new Champion Center, not just the Chavitzes, who obviously just put in a bunch of money for the Giants, are there other donors who are going to see this and have the little Mark Cuban thing tick in their head when they go, oh, a few $100 was one thing, but if this is what I'm going to get, maybe a few $1,000. And can things change? And obviously, X that by 10 or so. Can things change in that way? It remains to be seen, but there's no reason to think it couldn't. It's a major, I know St. Louis has fallen down the list a little bit, but still 24th market in America, no matter what you're talking about outside of the biggest conferences in the game, that is an asset, full stop.
And what you need to do is find not local companies, but just like Dr. Chaffetz, who's in Chicago, you need to find rich St. Louis U grads. Doesn't matter where they are. Those are the people that have access to their own money that can contribute it to the well-being of the St. Louis U basketball program. You can go all you want to the Fortune 500s here, but they've got to be run by people that attended St. Louis University. That's what you need to do, is find rich alumni like Mark Cuban is from Indiana.
And one final thing here, guys. It's a late game tonight. They're in North Carolina. They're on the East Coast, and it's a late game, 9 p.m. East Coast time, 8 p.m. here in St. Louis. So not too late for us, but it could be a weird game for the Billikens. There's no reason they should lose this game, but this is a road Q2 game, potentially without your best player. And the Tuesday games have been a little precarious at times. The last two games have been the GW game where they were getting beat up in the first half, and the Duquesne game, which they almost tried to lose in the second half. So Tuesday games have been a little odd for the Billikens. Do they have Robbie or not? We'll find out at 8 p.m. tonight, and we'll see if they can keep this incredible run rolling.
All right, high definition. We appreciate you tuning in. We're going to talk about the Blues for the last 5 minutes here. We need to take a look at the tankometer because the Blues did lose to the Blue Jackets over the weekend. They lost 5-3, but they saw plenty of good things. Number one, it was a loss. Number two, Snuggie scored. But some things missed the mark.
Yeah.
Kyrou -3, Booch -3, Roby -3, Karraker -2. But Karraker did score his first goal last night. Go Colton. Against Nishfield. And the Blues 5. I went to bed, man. They get a 5-1, and I think it's over.
Karraker scores his first goal. You're thinking a Karraker goal to make it 5-1. All right. Sail away. We got this one wrapped up, boys.
Yeah, I don't know if they have, like in our thermometer here for the tankometer, if they have the ability for the mercury to just fly out the top.
I tried,
we tried that?
I tried to make that last night. It was taking me too, like the fact that you thought it, I tried it, Randy, and it was taking me too long. I'm okay with the graphics, but I'm still not very good. And I was having trouble making it look realistic that it was breaking through the top. But that's exactly what I was thinking, 100%.
As you mentioned on our show plan here, it's one of the great tank games that we've ever seen, not only in St. Louis, but in the United States of America, because when you're trying to tank, you don't feel very good when you have a 5-1 lead, but then it's 5-2, and then it's 5-3 and 5-4, and you're saying, okay, we got a chance here. We're trying to tank 5-5, and then 6-5 Nishville, and this is like through the roof, right? This is
it's when we got to combine it with the Columbus Blue Jackets game. With again, it was a nice loss, but no one played very well. A lot of good numbers. You had Jordan Kyrou had a big game last night. Colton Parayko gets his first goal. It's going to be up there. It's going to be in the level. We're going to be just below the very highest. I mean, that was tanking at an 82 to 84 Rockets level. That is a back-to-back first-round pick level of tank. A 5-1 victory. Yeah. Your young players are playing well. Buchnevich at center is killing it for the first time ever. This is perfect. And then just one of the most, one of the most beautiful, artful, I dare say, the souffle of tank jobs that we will ever see from the Blues this season. Absolutely perfection. You're up 5-1. Who cares what happens to the goalie? Jordan Binnington's entire trade value is based on what happens in the Olympics. I don't care. We won't even talk about the defense. Oh, well. Incredible work by the Blues. This is some of the best tanking. It was like the spirit of the Spurs front office from 1998 was running around in that body. Well, absolutely incredible work by the Blues.
I don't know about you, but I was worried that the dad's trip would mess things up.
Yeah.
Because the Blues before their game on Monday night were 8-2-1 historically in dad's trip games. Now they're 8-3-1. And they play at Dallas, and they're going to beat Dallas. So they're going to be 8-4-1. And now you do have a 7-point lead over Vancouver. It'll be hard to lose enough to fall.
But we're going to try.
But what you need to do, because the Rangers and Calgary are both only 1 point ahead of the Blues. So the Blues really need to have some stick-to-itiveness if they want to make this tank work.
Yeah, they do. They need to really batten down the hatches, make sure we don't win any other games in the last few seconds. I know that was a great goal by Snuggie, but like this, Snuggie, these two games, you get a couple points, get a few assists, you got a couple nice shifts. Blues lose both games. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, so Colorado has played 54 games. The Blues have played 56 games. Colorado has 32 more points than the Blues do. 49, 59, 69, yeah. The Blues have 49, and the Avalanche have 81.
Oh, and by the way, last night was ridiculous. And if you're actually we're having fun here, but the actual analysis of the game last night, I thought Thomas and Mike Meyer's jumping in the chat right now. Dallas should be able to take care of business tomorrow. Robertson with one more game to show that he should have been named to Team USA. Yeah, we know Robertson's pissed about that. He probably could have. You probably could go on there, maybe bet him as a goal scorer on DraftKings and get a pretty good outlook from there. I loved the rant that Mike had last night on the Blues post game, and the way he put it was. The way he put it was a fire drill with no exits open. And and as soon as he said that, I immediately thought of the scene from The Office where Dwight runs the impromptu fire drill without telling anybody, where he blocks all the exits and everything like that, and everyone starts freaking out. That was essentially the Blues in the second and third period, and that's special because usually the Blues just look like that in the second period, but this time they did it in the second and third period. That's special.
That's very.
They are adapting. They're doing things differently. That's the important part.
They are.
incredible work by Mike and Thomas last night. It was just such a tough run to have to do that post game, and they killed it. Mike had an incredible job. You might see the clip running out on our socials.
All right. Hey, great work as always. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
And thank you for being a part of the show. Thanks to Wilson for getting us on the air. And thanks to our friends at DraftKings who present us at STL Sports Central. And we will see you. Yes, sir.
I just want to say, just remind everybody, all the Brendan Donovan stuff all over STL Sports Central on YouTube. If you want the instant reactions to the trade and the instant reactions to the return from the Cardinals, both of those are under the live tab. Later on today, under the video tab, you'll be able to find our interview with SNY and Sirius XM's Danny Vexelman. Again, she covers the minors really well. So if you want a quick download on Durangelo Sanger, or as she lets us know, Low Sanger, Durangelo Sanger, and Ty Pete, she gives a great breakdown there. So plenty of Brendan Donovan stuff, plenty of new prospect stuff all over. Just check out the video tab and the live tab right here on STL Sports Central.
And you have Billiken post game?
And I'll be on Billikens post game tonight. I have Eric Sontag. We don't know yet, but if as you're watching the beginning of the Billikens game, and let's just say you have your DraftKings thing open right there in the moment, maybe if Robbie Avila isn't playing, you take the first half under. I'd stay away from a full game play on that one because Billikens usually, and this is how the thing is, this is how to watch it. Maybe you wait for the first possession. If Robbie Avila is not playing, and the Billikens and Davidson are playing defense in front of their benches in the first half, if those two things are both true, bet the under for the first half of the Billikens.
There you go. That is prime advice from one Matthew Rocchio. All right, we'll see you next time on the Randy Karraker Show. So long, everyone.